You're listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
This is Mayor Rahm Emanuel with two great Chicago chefs on Chicago Stories. We're here to talk, both have booths as well as an event over at the Taste of Chicago, which is kind of world-renowned, and this with both being world-renowned, Taste of Chicago, but we have chefs who are world-renowned for different areas, and both came to Chicago, weren't born here. Yeah. Different stories. Bev, is that correct? Or I kind of leaped out there?
Well, I guess I was born in Downers Grove, so.
Okay, well that's a distance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suburbanite.
Yeah. But have made their home and made their business and made Chicago now the culinary capital of America. Let me start with you. Yep. I read a little about your journey. Why don't you tell everybody a little about it?
Yeah, I migrated from a little small town in Mississippi, Mississippi Delta, more or less about 72 miles south of Memphis.
Took a left on the way to Nebraska. It's a normal left-hand turn. Yeah, left on red.
Private college out in Nebraska, York College in York, Nebraska, and the only way I got there was on a basketball scholarship. You know, we was very poor. Yeah, growing up in one of the poorest counties in the state of Mississippi. So,
how big was your town or the county?
We had probably about 3,000 in the whole town, the community, Equipment County. So it was tough times during that time. I was a houseboy, years ago, back in Mississippi, and had an opportunity to go to college, which was my meal ticket out of Mississippi and out of some of the things that I used to do, chop cotton, pick cotton, that type thing. So yeah, but it's been good. Chicago's been good to me, and I've been good to Chicago.
Folks, we're talking. I just realized I didn't do a formal. I'm assuming so. It's Charlie Robinson from Robinson Ribs, and he has award-winning barbecue sauce, which is now world famous all over. I think you export it.
We got some export. I don't know how many countries. Our sauce is probably maybe 32 different countries that we ship to La Paparito. They take it out and ship it out of the country.
So you're in Nebraska, basketball, scholarship, Chicago. It's another left-hand turn. So the route to Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I had my older brother was here during I got to Chicago. He was here and always wanted to come and tour the big city. So I used to come here during Christmas time and always had a job at Spiegel's because I was a good worker. And they would always give me a job during the Christmas break and summertime. So I worked at Spiegel's for all
the holiday shops.
Holiday shops. So it was good for me because I got an opportunity to make some dollars, some money for school and everything along those lines. So it was a plus for me. I enjoyed it.
Well, that's fine. Yeah. And then, but I read this, and then I'm going to hear your story. How did the restaurant was you parallel parked into it. It wasn't like a plan. I mean, you just kind of called up. Tell everybody the story about how you decided to open up a barbecue ribs place.
I wasn't interested in the restaurant business. I know it's one of the toughest businesses in America. I was a successful ice cream distributor. One's a Haagen-Dazs ice cream distributor. 1982, I won the first Mike Royko Rib Fest.
Right.
And that's how, it was such a demand for my ribs and sauce, I was kind of forced into one of the hardest businesses in America.
I was forced.
I was forced into this business. So everybody wanted to try the ribs and sauce. So I said, well, I got to do this. And I didn't have no idea what it was.
But in the cook-off for the barbecue sauce, you borrowed the recipe from your uncle, if I read that correct?
Well, it was...
Tell people how you did that.
It was a family recipe. I said it was a 200-year-old recipe, 14 generations, but it really didn't go back. I used that as a kind of a starting point, and I got hooked into it. And every interview I would do, they would ask me about the 14 generation in the 200-year-old recipe. So let's face it, one of the things that I got tired of with and went from there. But it actually started my grandfather with the barbecue sauce, and I used to watch him make sauce, and I started watching it and learned a lot, and I started doing it myself. So,
well, it does bring a piece to the history of the city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Chicago's my city, my kind of town.
Bev, why don't you tell everybody a little about Parachute and how you started and where you started before?
Yeah, so Parachute, we're past our 3 years in Avondale. It's me and my husband run it. It's a family business. It's just like in kind of a neighborhood spot, and it's really the kind of food that I've been wanting to do and expressed my whole life, which is Korean American. I grew up as an immigrant. My parents came from Korea. I grew up here, and I've been cooking since I was 16. I started out at the Ritz-Carlton in the Water Tower place, worked my way up. Just worked in Chicago, actually, all different kind of restaurants.
So you always knew you wanted to do it?
I knew it from
Charles,
I was 16.
you just want to raise, you want a competition and down.
So, yeah, we're kind of opposite stores, ended up at the same place. You know, kind of like I always knew I loved cooking. I just didn't. I think coming up to open our own business, me and my husband together, was a way that we could also raise a family. It is one of the hardest businesses.
So you both say that. So
do.
tell everybody, like, I mean, I assume it's all on the line, like I do, 24/7. So tell me why when you guys say it's the hardest, and given the fact that I think it's like, I'm doing this by memory, but it's like 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 restaurants do not succeed. So the success to failure ratio is stacked against you.
It's against you. It's no question about it, you know. So, because the business is tough. Yeah. Now we've been in it for about 37 years, so it's been good to me, and I've been good to it along those lines. So, but it's a tough business. I don't want to deny. I can close the store, a restaurant, go home. My phone is still, people still calling me, you know, the cleanup crew, the cooler, the freezer, something's going on all the time, you know, so it's a tough one, you know, but we enjoy it.
I mean, there's always that phone call that's just like heart dropping, or like something that's happening, like, I mean, you're working with dangerous tools, you know, like slicers, hot stoves, gas. It's so labor intensive to produce what people don't want to pay, like skyrocketed prices for food, you know, like you have to be competitive, and but it takes a lot of labor and a lot of love and a lot of managing a team. It's a lot. You need a lot of people to make it happen. And you know, I feel like the back, both front and the back, but especially cooking, it's just like one of the most, I mean, it's the highest minimum wage kind of job out there, right? It's the lowest paid, but it's some of the hardest working like people, and
your employees.
Our employees, and it goes beyond just the money. You really have to have passion, you know, out there to make it happen, to stick with it, because if it weren't for the money, there's other easier jobs to do.
Did you learn anything in the restaurant business along the way that you said, when I get to my restaurant, I'm going to do that, or I'm definitely never going to do that? Is there anything?
I feel like treating people with respect is so important, because I've been in instances where I feel like you work so hard for, you know, and it just, we kind of grew up in this culture where if the chef doesn't say anything to you, you're doing okay. He only talks to you, or she only talks to you if you're doing something wrong. And changing that culture, it's hard. It's against the grain to say, hey, you know, I really appreciate you doing that for me. Great job, you know, because it's kind of like you're afraid if you say good job that they're gonna be like, great, I'm leaving now, you know, and that there's this fear of like if you praise someone, they're gonna be like, I'm good enough and I'm gonna leave. I don't know why. It's part of the culture, right?
It is.
And because like you've seen it happen. You give someone a raise, you say, and the next time they're ready to go. And but you have to do it. You have to praise them and make them feel respected. I think I there was times where I definitely didn't feel respected in the kitchen, and also like treating it like a profession. You know, there was a lot of, I feel like it didn't feel very professional at some points. You know, like where. You know, it just, there's just too much, lines could be crossed, things like that happen in the kitchen, and I always wanted to have a restaurant that felt like you felt proud of working, you know, and felt like it was a profession, not just like, because I couldn't make it in school or something.
Is it hard picking? I mean, you've had people, how long? You have had people with you the whole time?
I've had some since the beginning.
And so you create a family?
You create a family. They are family. Once they, you know, been with you for 37 years or longer, then that's strictly family. You know, we all stick together. We do what needs to be done, and whatever, if they need a hand with the family, and then we help out and do whatever. So it's.
Is it hard picking a location? For you got 3 restaurants now?
Yeah, but that's the hardest part of the restaurant industry is finding the right location. You know, so the old saying location. I mean, that's critical. But
I know, because I mean, on Bev's place, I remember the first weekend you guys opened, Amy and I went, and it was like Avondale, and now it's hottest neighborhood, one of the hot and upcoming neighborhood. I was like, I get you, like, you're like the next stop up from Logan Square, so I was like, and you're in Canal, right?
Canal, yeah. And our hub is Oak Park,
Park,
right. So that's we do a lot of the major things there.
So that's the hub for all,
And we do all the big events in the Chicago Metro.
Right.
McCormick Place, we do all the shows at McCormick, the Auto Boat Show, the Lions Club. We just came out of that show. We do all the Bears game, and we feed the Bears. We feed the opposing team. So we got some pretty.
You don't have to feed the opposing team, man.
Well, we don't feed them all, but they hire us to come in and do it. So that's the good part of it along those lines.
But the location's a tough game, making it right.
Certainly,
There's no question
it's a
about
real estate game right there. It's margins are tight, so you have to, like, the farther you go away from where the people are, it's a risk, like, is your food good enough to draw them, and but if your rent's too high, you can go out of business. So it's really that important.
It's interesting because one of the things that some of the New York chefs are now saying about someone that comes to Chicago is that it's affordable to try to do a restaurant in Chicago, where in New York it's like impossible.
Impossible. Even living there in New York, I heard, was
impossible. I mean, I feel like owning my own restaurant or owning, it's like a dream. Like, I don't know, like a far-fetched dream in New York where it actually can happen. Here in Chicago, I think it's a beautiful city for that. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of empty storefronts everywhere that need love and someone to take a chance on it and to create a neighborhood and, like, take a risk.
So you and your husband started the restaurant.
Yes.
Charles, do you have anybody in the family in the
business?
Do you have anybody in the family in the business?
I got 2 sons and a daughter. They run most of my special events, like McCormick.
Is it hard? Is it hard doing a business with family?
It is. My wife, she just.
Don't worry, they'll never hear this. Remember, it's a podcast. They may just listen. Answer it carefully if you want to go home.
Yeah. We just she had a birthday the 3rd a couple days ago, so I'm out in Naperville Rib Fest. So, and she said, "You've always a taste of Naperville Rib Fest or something." And my birthday, what are we gonna do? I mean, it's hard, but that's part of it. It is what it is. So,
you guys find it hard?
Yeah, it's not for everybody. For sure, it's not for everybody. But both my husband and I, we've been working in restaurants since we were 15. There's a lot of comfort in that we have each other's backs, and a lot of comfort with all the craziness that goes on, that we understand each other. And so that good outweighs the bad for me, but it's not for everybody.
Tell folks, why do you think Chicago's the hot restaurant scene it's come from? Tell me what you think. This is your first year at Taste?
This is my first year at Taste.
Okay,
yes.
You're a standard. I mean, you got your flag in the ground, man. You got your real estate. Tell me why Chicago, you think, all of a sudden has become a culinary kind of scene, and people now see it as a foodie town or a place for all types of food, and that people can gain. And then tell me what we as a city, tell everybody what you think this is great about the city from a food scene, and what we could do better as a city to help you guys.
Well, I think the city and you guys, the mayor's office, of such events, they're doing such a great job helping promote our business, which is good. And everybody thinks about ribs, pizza. You can go anywhere. I can go New York or wherever. And they want to know, bring me some of those ribs or pizza or something that type thing. So this is the mecca. Chicago is the mecca for restaurant industry along those lines, because I don't care where you go, Mississippi, Tennessee. They talk about the restaurants here, which is a good thing. And I like to tip my hat to you, Mr. Mayor, for doing a great job and helping making that possible along those lines.
Well, my hat's to you guys, because I'm just out here promoting what you guys do. If you guys weren't good, we couldn't promote it. So. No, I'm serious about that. Everybody always says, we brought the James Beard thing, but I mean, the truth is, if we did not have the types of chefs and cooks and everybody making something like great barbecue sauce, there's no marketing that's going to make up if there ain't something behind the marketing. That's the way.
Yeah, word.
So I'm going to tell you a funny story. I used to, and you'll probably remember the name. So I'm on a scuba trip, my wife and I.
Okay.
It's down in the Caribbean. I used to be a big scuba diver pre-kids.
You a scuba diver?
Yeah, used to have advanced license.
Oh, geez.
So anyway, so I'm down there. Some guy, we're underwater, is getting all panicky. So I give him what is your buddy system, your extra mouthpiece. He calms down, etc. We get up on the boat later, and I find out that he, first of all, I don't think he was a large man, let me just say that, okay?
Okay, yeah.
He should not have been scuba diving in the first place, okay? And I'll just leave it there. Nonetheless,
Okay.
we get talking, and he runs Bubba's Barbecue on the way to Ocracoke in North Carolina, and I suppose he won some competition. And we start talking. I tell him I love barbecue. I love barbecue. 6 months later, this is while I was in the Clinton White House, arrives a big box in Washington, all in what would then be kind of like the oil cans at the gas station.
Right.
6 cans of barbecue sauce, like a lifetime supply as a thing. Thank God I didn't have to report it to the ethics committee. I'd be in trouble. Because I was going on and on the whole ride back about how much I loved barbecue sauce, and that and on the way to Ocracoke, I used to see his place all the time and stop at it. And my son and I, this weekend, we're having barbecue ribs.
Oh, very good.
On our break, so we're big. I was just telling you, we're having a big debate: dry or wet.
Yeah, dry. Wet, brother.
Wet.
I don't like dry. Yeah, I was down in Memphis. Rendezvous had the dry rub, which I don't like that. You know, so
I'm with you.
Yeah,
The only way to eat barbecue is make sure you got a whole box of wet napkins ready to go on the side.
Exactly. Now, Bubba's Barbecue, is that the one with the boneless ribs? Boneless rib?
This is years ago. Now you're pushing me, and I would be guessing. All I know is on the way to Amy and I used to drive to Ocracoke Island, last island on the Outer Banks. We used to pass it all the time, but I think we finally moved. We threw some of it out because I could. Well, no, you couldn't go through. I liked barbecue. She was okay with barbecue, but it's a lot of sauce for one man to eat. Oh man! So, how do you guys come up with new dishes over at Parachute? And how did you come up with the name Parachute? I got Robinson.
Parachute. Yeah. It's interesting. So, I had an experience of going to Korea to kind of search my soul for what kind of food I really wanted to do. I grew up here. And I staged at a place, and stage means work for free. But nobody there knew why I was there. They thought I was stage. That's the culinary term for working for free.
Really?
Yeah, just to see what's going on. But everyone thought I was the American trying to take their job, honestly. Right. And so they called me Nakasan. Which means parachute in Korean, and it's actually kind of a derogatory term, like coming out of nowhere with kind of ties and whatever. And I was kind of hurt by that. I was like, look, I'm here to work for free, and I want to learn about Korean culture.
So that's the whole history of the name?
Well,
not the whole history.
Not the whole history, but I came back
that.
with a little sore,
Right.
I thought about it, I'm going to turn this around. Because I never felt, growing up here, fully American. Because, I got made fun of, go back to your country, even though I am American. And when I was in Korea, I was never fully Korean. And I embrace both. I embrace that I'm not, I am both American and Korean, and I'm taking something negative into a positive. And so in English, parachute means safe, a safety net, and for me and my husband, it was kind of our safety net. Jumping and risking opening a business, but it also, for us, is a place where we can be creative and free-flowing and open-minded. And that's kind of the whole idea of Parachute.
Very good, Chef.
That's a great story.
Yeah. I feel like it could apply to a lot of things, a lot of people.
I don't think have you talked about that before?
We kind of try to keep it a mystery because, we want it to be a special story, but we share it with people.
Was your husband with you in Korea?
So he went separately, actually, to Korea at a separate time. We were sharing our stories of Korea. So now when he went to Korea, everyone would look at him like he's a celebrity. Like he was in the countryside, and people would almost get in car accidents looking at him, like going down the street, like, who's this white guy? And why is he here? And why is he interested in Korean food? This is before David, before Korean food was really hot. And he's different, he grew up in Cincinnati, and he just always was into something different and loved Korean food. He got into Korean food. He didn't grow up with Korean food, obviously. He grew up in Cincinnati, but he worked in New York for years and had Korean friends, and he just fell in love with the culture and the food, and decided, you know what, I want a different experience. I've been to France. Everyone's going to Japan. I'm going to go to Korea. And so there was a very famous chef, never accepted foreigners, but for some reason he felt right to him.
Well, that's great.
And so that's his story about how he went to Korea, and that was my story going to Korea.
Now you guys got two different things on the taste. You've seen the taste, Charlie, from like change dramatically.
It is.
So why don't you you've gone through that? I mean, you've seen it morph and evolve, and because when I first ran, well, I would say one of the more regular things I got to tell you, aren't you going to shut down the Chase? Because it was a 3-year run. The Taste of Chicago had lost money. And like one of the more dominant questions in 2011 when I ran was, when are you going to shut it down? When are you going to shut it down? Now it's thriving and it produces revenue for the city. So what do you think? What's it like? You could probably tell the story of Chicago through the evolution of the Taste of Chicago.
Taste of Chicago. I got friends in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg.
Yeah.
They come every year. I mean, they love
put it on the calendar.
They put it on the calendar. They love to come to Chicago for Taste of Chicago. So I think it's a great event. I'm just so delighted that it's 5 days instead of 10 days. We did 10 days for so long, man. That was brutal. It was just brutal. It was brutal on you, in the elements and the temperature and that type thing. But I just, when it came down to 5 days, I just got excited. I just loved it. Right. Because, you could deal with it from that end of it. But I think taste is, you can go anywhere and people's, they
know it.
They know about Taste, yeah. And so many of those folks try to use the name Taste of Chicago, When
I go to open it, I always I brought them, I'm here from Australia, I'm here from Pennsylvania, and they just, And now you're doing a different thing. We started 2 things 4 years ago. One, we brought music back, and then the other piece was kind of the specialty night. So why don't you tell folks a little about that? Yeah,
so it's a chef du jour where you get to try a sample of a few courses from our restaurant. We bring it to the Taste for one night. Each night is a different chef from a different restaurant. Right. We're taking Sunday, the 9th, and it gives us an opportunity because we're a small restaurant. We can't go there every day, and I mean, our walk-in cooler is the size of a walk-in closet. I mean, seriously. It's a 1,500 square foot space, and for us it's a large, but our contribution, we want to contribute and be part of the community and help Chicago grow and help Chicago be the culinary destination that it is. And so it's our way of contributing. We can do one night, really focused, give people a sample of what we do.
You've done a great job.
Yeah, it is. So here's, somebody always says, my son's now interested in politics. Would you want him to be in politics? I said, only if he wants to. I'm not, and they asked me about my daughters, the same thing. Would you recommend your family go into the restaurant business?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. You guys both said it's the hardest business.
It's the hardest.
But they're already in. My family's already in. My daughter, my sons, they're already in the industry. So
have any of them ever thought about opening up their own restaurant?
Beg pardon?
Have any of them? Any of your sons?
No, they got enough to do now. They would never cross their mind, because we locked down to so many events and so many different opportunities along those lines. So that just kind of based aside of it. But no.
Given the difficulty, what you said, would you guys think of you and your husband?
If he loved it. If he really truly, not because it was the easy thing to do. I want him to come up with that on his own, but even he's 7 and I have him involved. I have him come in with kids dishes on the kids menu, and he loves it. And it's a creative outlet for him. But like I said, it's not for everybody. He also loves Lego robotics, So if he can be an aero engineer and change the world in that way, great. I just feel like we all need to do what we are best at, and we're really hard. We could change the world, just by making great ribs.
Right.
You're changing the world just like an engineer could.
Well, see, my thing about Chicago, which I love, I always tell people this, it is at a nexus of the world. I mean, other cities have obviously many cultures, but we have there's something about what we do, and this comes through in food. Food tells you about a culture. It tells you about the geography of the place. And we have people that mix flavors and foods in ways that mix cultures, which is I think our scene is the ultimate melting pot.
It is.
Right.
That's what makes, you could have somebody doing barbecue ribs and you have somebody, a Korean type of
Diverse.
restaurant. Yeah.
Right.
Diversity is a beautiful thing, and we have to continue to promote that.
So, Bev, what did you bring us to taste here?
Okay, so some of our pickles. This is a eggplant pickle, namu. This is a cucumber pickle, something refreshing. And this is our house kimchi. And then this is our house bread, which is a.
You don't think we should just go? I thought that looked like a dessert, man.
Oh yeah, this is our loaded baked potato bean bread. So bean bread is actually a Chinese bread, but it's filled with the loaded baked potato flavors.
Oh, gee.
So it's like a kind of mishmash of Chicago. And I brought sour cream butter to go on the side. Please help yourself.
Yeah.
And just something to nosh on.
You know what I think of you now? I think you're half Korean, half Jewish. You got this, you got this Jewish mother thing down, but you got your butter. I can eat this all day long. And I love spicy food, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I definitely think you got the Jewish mother. If you need a letter of recommendation into the temple, I'm in for the. I'll write you the letter.
Thank you. I've heard a lot of things about Jewish moms, and I feel like that's the, like feeding you, and that's the heart of hospitality. I enjoy feeding people. I enjoyed serving you. That's like what I do. Comes very naturally.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Now, how come? Do you think you'll ever tell anybody the secret sauce behind the ribs?
No.
Not the ribs. The sauce.
No, it's kind of locked in. We have to keep that in the safety of the.
Where do you make it?
We got 3 different companies in the Chicago metro area that makes our sauce.
That really make it?
Yeah, Mullen Foods, Tone Product, and Tech. We are too big to make it ourselves. So we sub it out.
What year did you get to a point where you couldn't do it anymore? You had to and then have the monitor control that you wanted? You didn't start off having it subbed.
No. We started making it ourselves, but 1983. Actually, when we first got started, it was such a demand for our sauce and ribs, so we had to. And a lot of our ribs now, it's the big events that we do. We have them done at USDA plants. I know Farmington Foods and Forest Park, Wichita Park. A lot of those companies that do some pre-smoking for us. And pre-smoking, because
you go and inspect them beforehand.
We inspect. They use our spices. We got our own spices and everything else. They use our spice. Some of the events is just too big for us to run them out of our 6,000 square feet kitchen, and so we have to sub it out and go from there. But we got control of it along those lines. So
Can you share how long you roast the ribs for?
Well, it depends. We do a baby back rib, and we normally cook that for about 3.5 hours.
Oh, got it.
St. Louis ribs, which we're doing out at Taste this year, it's about 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So it's.
What's the difference? Does it just fall off the bone differently or something?
No, not really fall off the bone. When in ribs, you're paying for the bone, so you have to bite it off. If it falls off, then you just.
You got to work your. You got to work for your food.
You got to work for it. I mean, that bone is the rib, so
you mean that gives it its taste?
Exactly. You should be able to bite it off. If it falls off, then it's good for senior citizen. It's gonna fall off the bone. But
it needs a little chew too.
A little chew. You got to bite. You have to have a bite to it along those lines. So that's basically the way we do it. And
who do you like dealing with to get your supplies from the ribs from? What meat?
Well, we do Wichita, Farmington Foods, Morris Meats. We got several companies that we buy from, and just not one big company, because sometimes some of them can run in short, or we got something big going on, then we have to.
Gotta have your backups.
To give people a sense, you're at Taste.
Yeah.
What's your order you're going to make before it? How many ribs are you going to order? How many pounds?
Well, we're going to do 3,000 pounds of ribs for taste for the 5 days. So that's a lot. Yes, that's a lot of ribs. Yeah, 3,000 pounds. So,
when you go to the thousands, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
When you're in the hundreds, that's a lot. Yeah. I'm in the 2 digits when I order.
Do you go out and do you go around and try to find when you're looking at suppliers to taste and prepare? So how do you do that?
We use a lot of local farmers, like Warp Farms or
here in the
Slagle, here in the area. Mm-hmm. What people sometimes are not used to is the irregularity of like how the animal grows when it's like a local farm. It doesn't cook exactly the same, every time, because they're also different. It's not like this commodity product, so. Sometimes we'll get ribs and it's like this much fat on it.
Yeah,
right. And then other times it's so inconsistent, but we have to work with that consistency. That's why I was telling him our menu does change a lot. Yeah, It really depends on what we can get, the best product, the time, the height of the season. We like to keep things interesting. That's for sure.
There's no doubt about it. Chicago's a food town, man.
It's a food town, of course, about it, man.
I love it. I love this. I mean, I'm telling you, I think what you guys are doing is so impressive and so great for the city.
Thank you.
No, I mean, everybody now knows about, they know too. We got Taste Chicago, we got the obviously, the James Baird. Then you also got Gourmet Chicago, and now people know the city, know what you guys do, and that's was my whole goal. And it's just great to have both of you here.
Thanks for bringing the James Beard.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We appreciate the opportunity. I do appreciate it. So,
anything we can do to help you guys continue to grow. And you always have my letter on file when you apply yourself to the Hadassah Jewish Women's Organization. Well, we're joined by Robinson Ribs at Parachute here. In Chicago Stories, people that made their name here in Chicago and then made Chicago's name around the world.
You have been listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.